Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2023. And specifically, I'd like to focus our attention, if I may, on a set which has been designated by Criterion collectively at SPY number 1197. It is a multi-disc Blu-ray set, which is right here, Jackie Chan, Emergence of a Superstar. And this has 4 discs with 6 feature films spread out over such 4 discs. On disc number 4, we have the 6th of such 6 feature films, and this is a work which is described as being from the year 1985, and the director is Sammo Hung, and the name of the work is, and please pardon me for my poor pronunciation, I hope you can forgive me, it is Fuxing Go Ju, or as it's known in English, My Lucky Stars. This is the work, another very entertaining, exceptional work. This is described as being from the year 1985, and it stars Jackie Chan. It features Jackie Chan, but that's not all who appears in this great ensemble work from director Sammo Hung, because in fact it features, for instance, Sammo Hung, as well as Eric Tsang and Michiko Nishiwaki and Sibel Hu and Bolo Young and Yun Byo and Jackie Chan, as I mentioned, and others. And this is the work which is called My Lucky Stars. My Lucky Stars is a film. Well, we should point out that there are actually other films in the so-called Lucky Stars film series. Not just this film, My Lucky Stars, but there are other films that are part of this and that involve a number of the characters that we do in fact meet in this film, My Lucky Stars. So we don't have in the Criterion Collection set, as far as I am aware, we don't have any Lucky Stars release. And for purposes of this Jackie Chan Emergence of a Superstar, we only get one of the so-called Lucky Stars films, that being this film, My Lucky Stars. But rather than consider that to be any detriment, is in fact, I think, a great positive, considering how the film does feature some great Jackie Chan performances. It is not all quote-unquote Jackie Chan. There is a lot of wonderful other characters, including the great Sammo Hung, who is in many ways a type of lead or centerpiece or anchor that is one of the hearts and souls of this film. And to see Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung together in this film, among other performers like Yun Byo and others, it is a true a treat. It is a wonderful cinematic treat. So My Lucky Stars. It involves undercover detective work, Hong Kong undercover detective work that through some reason or another involves a criminal gang that has its hideout in a Japanese amusement park. Or the sort of the dwellings or underground cavern work of the amusement park, or the background of it. Fuji-Q Highland, which is a kind of famous place in Japan. And so this gives the opportunity for our group of characters, our heroes, to essentially have huge action set pieces that primarily take place in and around this apartment, I'm sorry, not apartment, but this amusement park setting. There are actually apartment sequences in this film elsewhere, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this amusement park setting forms, I think, the main standout set piece environment, which is used, I think, to great effect, really great effect. And in this, we have, among other things, Jackie Chan's character, who is one of, we see early on, trying to hunt down, through his undercover police work, hunt down a series of criminals connected with hiding places here in the amusement park setting in Japan. When we, through circumstances very early on, just open the film, he is unsuccessful or certain impediments stand in the way, then he has to rely on another way. And so herein lies another plan, which is back home, a group of people will come to the aid of Jackie Chan. But the problem is that anyone who is too high profile will be automatically spotted by this very, very shrewd criminal gang. And so the plan is to try to assemble a group of people that are very low profile, maybe petty criminals themselves, or in very, very, very under the radar types of work or employment. So very, very low profile, almost quote unquote the bottom rung of the ladder type of consideration, end quote. But here we have an assembly of a ragtag group of heroes led by the brilliant Sammo Hung. And so here, this is an opportunity to, in a sense, step away from the quote-unquote Jackie Chan plotline, which you saw open the film, and then go to what could be termed to be a type of Sammo Hung-centered plotline involving his involvement or introduction to the plot, and then his attempts at trying to gather the group, gather the stars, as it were, who each have their own set of characteristics and comedic, charming aspects to their personalities, as well as idiosyncratic traits. And so for those who know, since, for instance, the Lucky Stars films, you'll already get a sense immediately of where this film is going in terms of a collection or gathering of this ragtag group of our heroes that have to come together and work together to try to thwart the villains and save the day. And so this provides, I think, a lot of interesting madcap hijinks, comedy, and humor, which also allows for some interesting, say, cross-cultural miscommunication humor involving Hong Kong culture and Japanese culture. And it's all done for fun. It's all done, I think, very innocently, and it's also done in the name of entertainment. So it has that type of, I think, charm to it, which is, I think, in many viewings of the film can be seen to be quite endearing. There are, I think, some brilliant set pieces involving, as I mentioned, um, the amusement park setting and the haunted house setting in the amusement park, for example. And so when Sammo Hung's forces and Jackie Chan are able to reunite, as it were, that's where I think a lot of the action propulsion forward really kicks into high gear. It really goes for the jugular, I think, and succeeds quite wildly. Because there are some interesting over-the-top sequences involving, as I say, haunted houses and robots and people in costume, and all of a sudden these odd rooms that are turning upside down, and figures or mannequins that come to life and things like that. Not to mention gambling dens, and say the criminal leader, and the people who the fedora adorned criminal gang members, etc., and their plot in terms of money and gambling, and also throw in some great, say, hench persons and characters that are also trying to stop our band of heroes from saving the day, as it were. And we have some great sequences involving Michiko Nishiwaki in terms of the a wonderful turn as a member of the gang, in a manner of speaking, but some incredible surprises and one of the great memorable fight sequences. And that's also part of the supplements that we'll talk about in the context of this Criterion release. So, and there's some very sly and very clever references back to other martial arts. I did this almost kind of instinctively, because I'm reminded of a scene in this film that one of the characters does, which is very obviously a type of homage to a trait of Bruce Lee. And so not to mention a gathering of Peking opera and acrobatics. There's a history of Peking opera that's very much part of the performers here. uh, Yun Bio and Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan and others. So, and also this is a continuation of sort of Golden Harvest a relationship, a professional relationship in terms of Jackie Chan's film involvement and career. I should mention that this is a Jackie Chan film, but it's also a Sammo Hung film. It is a Jackie Chan film in some parts, but then in other parts, it gives wide berth and a lot of the spotlight to other performers and actors, both in terms of comedic, say, dialogue scenes, and also scenes of miscommunication, mistaken identity, and then some really well developed fight sequences and action set pieces that are very well done indeed. And then there are parts of it where Jackie Chan does come into the fore quite prominently, and also parts of it where Sammo Hung comes to the fore quite prominently. It's a great, great time at the movies, and I love to how each of the characters has their own distinct individual qualities and strengths. To it, and just take for example Sammo Hung's character and Jackie Chan's character. There's a similarity between them, but they're also distinct personalities, and in terms of their physicality and fight sequences and choreography. It's such a great film. Uh, and I should say, on a personal note, I love the connections between the sort of the Hong Kong cinema crossover and the use of the Japan setting locale for most of the film. I mentioned the Japan amusement park setting, which is a real life place, and we have the Japanese writing or other set pieces involving actual, say, a manga or anime character at some point. And so it's interesting to have this quote unquote fish out of water type of story that is also allowing for some humorous scenes, but it doesn't say overpopulate, or it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think that type of fish out of water part of this film is balanced just enough with the other competing forces of the film, namely the action set pieces, the stunts, the wild visuals, and the humor scenes involving Lucky Star's Sammo Hung and company, as well as the Jackie Chan character integration into this. So uh, it's another wonderful, fabulous, entertaining work. It is part of a sequence of films related to this concept or story of Lucky Stars. So we're not getting the entirety of the Lucky Stars legend, cinema legend. We're getting but one example of this in terms of My Lucky Stars. But what a great example it is. And it is undoubtedly very important in the trajectory of Jackie Chan, thus being part of this emergence of a superstar set, Jackie Chan, from the Criterion Collection. But it is also a reminder to of Peking opera heritage that is very much part of Jackie Chan's cinema legacy, and also other figures that are very much key and integral and critical to the health and vigor and vitality and legendary status of Hong Kong cinema. Yun Bio, for example, and Sammo Hung. Sammo Hung's contribution cannot be, I think, stated enough. It's Sammo Hung is another key artist in this field, in this cinema. Another Renaissance artist in so many ways, and also connections both in terms of his own filmography as well as the legacy heritage aspects. I mean, one aspect of Jackie Chan's heritage coming up through the ranks of Hong Kong cinema was his connection with Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon, very famous film featuring Bruce Lee. Well, Sammo Hung has a very similar type of linearity in terms of his own heritage in the context of Hong Kong cinema, while also forging his own path forward. Very, very famous. So this is, again, a great example of a Sammo Hung work. It's a great example of a Jackie Chan film, and it's also a great example of the Lucky Stars cinema entertainment. And also, again, coming back to Jackie Chan, his appearance here in very, very memorable Jackie Chan set pieces as part of this set Jackie Chan Emergence of a Superstar. And I'm speaking of the film, which is My Lucky Stars. The Criterion Collection has released this film, My Lucky Stars, as part of this multi-disc Blu-ray set, Jackie Chan Emergence of a Superstar. Once again, the Blu-ray set overall is designated by Criterion at spine number 1197. I hope I got that right. Yes, 1197. And it's 4 Blu-ray discs overall, 6 feature films spread out over such 4 discs. My Lucky Stars appears on its own at disc number 4. And that's the disc, which is what I have in the player at the moment. And so what we have is the movie, chapters, supplements, and setup. I should speak about the setup in terms of audio options. Here we have original monaural Cantonese soundtrack, 2.0 stereo Cantonese soundtrack, and English dub monaural soundtrack. And so and also a word about the masters can be found on page 28 of the booklet, and it says, and I quote, digital restorations of Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, Spiritual Kung Fu, The Fearless Hyena 2, The Young Master, and My Lucky Stars were created from the 35mm original camera negatives, with Half a Loaf of Kung Fu mastered in high definition, and the other 5 features mastered in 2K resolution. Scanning for all the films was performed on an Aeroscan film scanner. The original monaural theatrical mixes and original English dub tracks, when available, were provided by collectors dedicated to the proper preservation of Hong Kong cinema, while the 5.1 and 2.0 Cantonese tracks were made from optical soundtracks, etc. So, and I should point out that yes, it says here contemporary English dub tracks for The Young Master and My Lucky Stars. So, yes, to my ears, and I forgot to mention this, I think, in the discussion of The Young Master, but that film also had what sounded to me to be an English dub track that seems to have been maybe recorded recently, or something that I hadn't heard. I don't recall hearing before prior to watching it on the Criterion disc. And I think the same holds true for when I watched the film many times, but one of the times I did watch it, it was using relying on the English dub monaural, and I hadn't heard this particular track when I'd seen this film. I've seen this film a number of times, but never with this dubbed English track. So I'm assuming this is quote unquote a contemporarily recorded track as described by Criterion here. But in any event, we have a number of these options and the presentation for purposes of this Criterion release. Now, once again, let me step back and say this is not going to be a one-stop shop for all of a collective and ultimate release of these films under the Criterion Collection banner, because unfortunately the Criterion Collection release, one can say, isn't, say, it probably wouldn't be considered to be the most comprehensive in terms of releases of these films. And if you feel that way, and if you feel it's lacking in certain aspects in that way, or critical of the Criterion release because of that or other points, I think that's a very fair and legitimate and reasonable critique to have regarding the set. And so you may feel like it's not necessarily something that you need because you already have, say, very great and reliable releases of these films already from other labels. So that's okay. But if you are looking for a way of getting these films, you don't have these films yet, you have an interest in Jackie Chan but maybe not knowing where to go, or you are wanting to get a sense of what this set has to offer in terms of any freshly made, some things that are maybe new or fresh or are being made available for the first time, such as newly prepared English dub tracks or some contemporarily recorded commentary tracks for some of the other films, etc., then this set could be for you. I'm certainly very pleased with it. Certain reservations or critiques I have notwithstanding. So it's, I think, overall a solid release, and part of its my reasoning is that it does include a good chunk of the so-called early component of Jackie Chan's career. Not everything, not every film that could be considered vital or important, end quote, in this period of his career is included here, but a good a cross-section is. So, and that includes My Lucky Stars. And so I'm very happy for its inclusion here and in the form of the presentation as we have it in this Criterion set. And part of the Criterion set, I should say, is what we have in terms of the supplements. There is no commentary track for this, unfortunately. It would have been nice, especially considering how positively I feel about Frank Zheng's extraordinary commentary track work for some of the other films included in this Criterion release. But what we do get are a number of supplements. And the first thing is Clown Prince. And this is approximately 18 minutes. And this is an interview, a one-on-one interview with Sammo Hung, the star and director of this work. This archival interview, I quote, features actor-director Sammo Hung's thoughts about cinematic action, humor, and My Lucky Stars. So as I mentioned, Sammo Hung is one of the key voices in Hong Kong cinema and martial arts cinema and action cinema and action comedy cinema, as well as the cross sections in terms of his work, Jackie Chan, the aesthetic and legacy of Peking opera and acrobatics and theater, as expressed in this period of Hong Kong cinema into the 1980s. And so, and we also get a lot of his perspective and where he comes from, and also working in Japan, working in these situations, and his dealings with various kind of set pieces here. And all in all, so Sammo Hung is one of the key artistic voices, and to get a little sense of that here with this interview, I think is absolutely fantastic. It is a carryover from elsewhere, of course, so. But it's better to have this than not have it at all under this Criterion release. So that's really great. This is the interview with Sammo Hung, which is approximately 18 minutes. And then moving on, we have Lady Daredevil. It says, in this archival interview, former powerlifter and bodybuilder Michiko Nishiwaki discusses her background and her role as a villainous fighter in the climax of My Lucky Stars. This is approximately 20 minutes. So Michiko Nishiwaki's role in this film could be described as maybe a supporting role, not a leading role necessarily in terms of prominence on the marquee or running time, or how much running time there is of for performance. But that doesn't stop performance from becoming one of the most memorable parts of this film. This is an incredibly memorable performance in many ways. And to get a little sense of who Nishiwaki is, her background, her approach to martial arts, her upbringing, growing up, and then her entry into Hong Kong cinema, and then into this film, and what the demands were, what the role demanded of her in terms of being, as it's described here, a villain, or part of the villain role, and the physicality and the type of brute force that's part of the character that she's portraying. My goodness, this is one of the most memorable parts of this film. So it's a great interview. Again, carried over from elsewhere, but it's better to have it, I'd say, than not have it at all. And my goodness, it's a interview with one of the standout performers of this work. That's Nishiwaki. So that's great to have this. It's approximately 20 minutes. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And then we have something which is called NG shots. NG is the phrase which is referring to no good. So N for no, G for good. No good, NG. And this is a phrase that was used for some blooper reel footage that was part of, say, the other film in the set, The Young Master. But now we have it also for My Lucky Stars. And it says, this silent reel presents footage from My Lucky Stars that was considered unusable, NG, or no good for the final feature. And this is approximately 22 minutes, and it's silent, so there isn't, to my knowledge, any accompanying soundtrack to this. So, but it's, again, a part of this blooper reel experience that I think over time will become part of the Jackie Chan legend. But it's here in this blooper reel separate section here in the Criterion supplements. So it's approximately 22 minutes. Really great, and just to get a sense of it looks like such a fun production shoot. A lot of laughing, a lot of redos, retakes, and you think about all the set pieces, and sometimes if something goes wrong, having to reset the thing. I can't imagine the time and energy it must have taken to have to reset a lot of these things that sometimes involve large damage to sets or something that have to be repaired for another take, or props of similar capacity. So, but anyway, NG. By the way, as I mentioned in the earlier video, NG is also a phrase that can be used in Japanese that has the same meaning. So NG. So anyway, then we have the Cantonese trilops. Let me stop here and bring it back. Sorry about this. Don't want to play that because I want to go back. Here we go. There, I just pressed the button for the Cantonese trailer. I don't want to do that. But here's the Cantonese trailer and then the English dub trailer to round out the supplements. Here's part of the supplements package for My Lucky Stars. So once again, we have a series of supplements that are, for the most part, carried over, or that are carried over from other sources. So we don't have, to my knowledge, anything new from Criterion. It would have been nice to have something new from Criterion that was My Lucky Star centric. It would have been also interesting to see what Criterion could have done in terms of releasing other Lucky Stars films, but that might be taking away from the Jackie Chan, or maybe not actually, but maybe an idea in the future perhaps in terms of, and also more Sammo Hung films. But in any event, what we do get here is a great support for a really fun and adventure and entertaining film. So these are the supplements that are included with My Lucky Stars. And just to round out this discussion, I do want to point out that we will, in the next and final video discussion on this set, we will be talking about the packaging and other aspects, generally speaking, of this, including the booklet. So there is the booklet here, which has a comprehensive essay and other aspects, which we'll address a little bit more when we get to the final video of this discussion series. But let me just point your attention to pages 12 and 13. Here 12 and 13 have My Lucky Stars specific pages, some shots from the film, including some very memorable stunt work and that involve some of the attractions at the amusement park in question. And also on the other side, some quick synopsis of the film, including casting credits information, etc. So some My Lucky Stars page specific pages here on pages 12 and 13. But we will address certain aspects of the booklet and packaging in the next and final video of this set. But for now, a discussion on My Lucky Stars. Again, a great Sammo Hung film, a great Jackie Chan film, a great example of Lucky Stars, and another example of Jackie Chan, Emergence of a Superstar, to end actually the 6-film run that's part of this set. So it's a very good representation of Jackie Chan's film and work, and I think My Lucky Stars is another standout. So wonderful inclusion here with this Criterion release. My Lucky Stars, as it appears in Jackie Chan, Emergence of a Superstar. All right, my dear friends, so that's it for now. There's one more video on this set, so won't you join me for one last video discussion on the set overall. But until then, my dear friends, please continue to be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies, including films featuring Jackie Chan, including films in the Criterion Collection and beyond. So until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.